Hello. If you have reached this channel, it's because you're a student or you're going to be a student. Anyway, as a way of introduction, let me tell you my name is Pablo Ares. I'm a mathematician and I teach mathematics at the University CEU San Paulo. In these videos, I'll show you how beautiful mathematics is because the three most beautiful things in life, they have an M in Spanish, of course. Mozart music, very cold beer, and mathematics. What a better way to spend an afternoon than reading a math book while you listen to Mozart's concerto for three pianos and you have a very cold beer. Let's see if we can get together, find the beauty of mathematics. This is my house balcony, and I'll show you my house. Well, not all my house after all, but I can show you certainly here the model and building of a container ship, very big container ship that I hoped to be over by the end of the semester. And here is where we are going to do mathematics. And we start with functions, because if we're going to do calculus, calculus is nothing but the study of functions. And therefore, we should start with the main ingredient of our videos, which are functions. What is a function? You have certainly seen a function in high school, and maybe you don't have very clear what a function is, but certainly you know the graph of a function. Graph of a function allows us to understand how a function behaves. For example, in this green graph, if we want to know how the function acts on the point 12, we simply moved upwards from 12 all the way to the graph, and then we move to the y-axis, in this case to the left, till we hit the vertical axis, and thus the image of the function. We have a is equals to 12 and f of a is 5.72, and that's how the function acts on the point 12. But a function does not need to be given by a graph. It can be given in many different ways. For example, you can find a function here in the place you could expect the least in this supermarket, where you have a equivalence between American and European sizes for jeans. 3242, 3444. This function is simply at 10. Or you could have a function in the maximum temperature of a given day. We know, everybody knows what is the maximum temperature. If you look at the newspaper, you'll find yesterday's maximum temperature, and it's a function that does not have a formula. If this function had a formula, you would not need the weather forecast. All you have to do to measure the maximum temperature is to have a thermometer for 24 hours and check what's the maximum. It's a function. It's a different way to define a function. So functions are transformations. They're also called transformations because they change things. For example, the maximum temperature changes the day into a number. That's the temperature. And you can find transformations everywhere. Thus, we can think of a function as something that takes an independent variable, x, and here it produces a dependent variable, which is called y, and in between we have a box, a rule, we have a table, we have a formula, we have a way to pass from x to fx. That's simply a function. A transformation is not the graph, and not every graph is the graph of a function. Take this one for example. This does not correspond to a function, because if it were any given point, we could see how the point transforms. Take for example a equals to 1. To look at the image of 1, f of 1, we go up as we did before till we hit the graph, and then we go to the y-axis, and here we have a point. But there's no reason why you should go upwards. You could move downwards and go down from 1 up to the axis, up to the graph, and then left to the axis. And we find that the point 1 can be transformed into different ways. f of 1 could be either up or down, and that's not a function. It is very important to understand that a function transforms a point into one point. There is only one image. There is only one way to find the transformation of one given point. What are we going to use functions here? We'll use, for example, to predict life expectancy. Here you have the life expectancy of the world and Spain in 2015. Can we say how long are we going to live on average in 2020? Well, we'll try with a function. We could use also functions in economics. Like for example, if we look at the GDP per capita. GDP per capita is the value of a country, what corresponds to each person of the country. Here we have the GDP of India, lowest, the world, Spain, United States, for 200 years from 1816 to 2016. Can we say how much is going to be the GDP per capita of Spain in 2020? This type of problems is the ones that we're going to try to study. Coronavirus has spoiled our things, but we'll try our best.